what I would say about the likes of Gyökeres and Osimhen as well is that they're strikers of a level of the kind of profile that United haven't really been targeting anyway. I mean, they're totally different from Delap. They've been looking to move towards younger players and Premier League players who have that level of experience and quality. And I'm not saying Delap's better than those two, but who have done it here in this country.
Jay here from Stretford Paddock. This is Off the Bar. Joining us as always is Mr. Stephen Howson. How are we doing?
Matt, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I feel like I've not seen you for ages. Is that real? Or I've seen you since...
I weren't in on Friday, was I?
No, so we didn't have a chance to bask in the glory of the game against Spurs. That's a shame. Anyway, enough said about that. Also joining us is Mr. Mark Critchley from The Athletic. How are we doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
It's great to have our favourite journalist from The Athletic on.
I don't know about that, actually. I think someone else has got a weekly slot. But
well, you're definitely in our top 5.
20.
Top 2.
That's what they said to me on the overlap as well.
Well, yeah, we were talking about you've not been on the overlap for a little while.
No, I know.
You had your presenting gig.
You're my only gig now. So,
yeah, do you know what I mean? Came in there like, you know what I mean? I'm taking over, and then don't worry, they'll be back.
You say top 5 got Ornstein.
All right, I'm going to minute. Yeah, there's Ornstein.
There's
Carl.
I quite like Ollie Kay as well.
Yeah,
I like Ollie Kay.
Daniel
Taylor, is it still there?
Yeah, Daniel Taylor.
I love Daniel Taylor.
Charlotte Harper, I don't know you met her yet, but she's really good. So
Charlotte Harper, good. Does Mitten still do in the Athletic?
I already included him.
Oh, sorry, you included Mitten. I think
top 20 was safe.
Safe. Yeah. I think you're well.
9th?
Yeah, mate, you're mid-table. You're safe. Top half. You're safe.
You take that.
Maybe not European place, but you know.
But you know what I mean?
We're building.
Much better than United doing in a sweaty table, a sweaty place table. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about Manchester United. Last time you was on here, I was quite critical of you for not writing enough.
Oh, right.
You remember?
Have I not done anything else since either?
I sort of said we tried to find a recent article, we couldn't, which was a joke.
But it was true.
Yeah, but you have been writing a lot recently. You spoke about after Bilbao. I mean, it could have been a never-ending article about where do United go from here. What are the sort of implications of it? What's gone wrong? I mean,
Joe, if you should have done an article say what's gone right this year.
Yeah, that would have been
Save yourself
shorter.
a hell of a lot of work.
The thing is, we've got word counts of a minimum 4,000 words at the Athletic.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
you can imagine that. I bet there's some. I bet if there's some that go over that.
Wait, what has gone right this year?
That's a really good question, because even the things that have gone right have been tainted. So Ahmad coming in at the side was great, but then he got injured for ages, which was tainted. Lenny Yoro, great, but again injury. Aidan Evan looked mint, but got injured in his 3rd game. Like, there's always been a caveat of rubbishness.
What is the little golden nugget of this season?
We were asked that for that piece, and I think what both me and Laurie, it was a discussion between me and him. What we landed on was
can't get worse.
The age of the squad. that was the start. That was the start. That it can't. Well, look,
that's a great point. Yeah, this is it.
Would you actually bet against them going down?
Yeah, I would.
At any point? Yeah,
I would. Without Europe, I would.
Yeah, okay. But it's not like we weren't talking about that at one point this season, right? So it could have gone worse. But I think the other thing, the sliver of comfort is it's quite a young squad, and I think people do sort of overlook that now. If you think about Yoro, Heaven, Ahmad. I was going to include Garnacho. Maybe we're not going to include Garnacho going forwards. Dorgu. There's a nucleus of young players there where you would expect them to get better from the experiences that they've had this season, and them to be added to with, because we've seen the direction that the club has sort of taken, especially with Yoro and Heaven, in that, and Dorgu. They're signing younger. We're looking towards the future. Let's forget about the last 9 months.
It's all right. You can
push forward, and I think that is the one kind of crumb of comfort that you've got.
Yeah, but Medlock Rangers under 13s are young. Don't mean they're going to survive in the Premier League if you play them.
Do you have much hope and optimism?
I know the audience and most people around this table don't believe me when I say this, but I am an optimist.
I know. I know you. I know you can be. I'm not saying it's it's not an alien concept.
Myself to this thing every single day of my life. If I thought it was doom and gloom all the time, I do believe that we can do it. Whether or not that means this season or not, I don't. Maybe I'm a bit more patient than the average.
I think I'm with you. I think maybe it's our age and the riches we've seen. Because some people say when you've seen such riches, it makes you impatient. It makes you. I feel the other way around a little bit. Like, I'm all right in a way because I've seen 13 Premier League titles, 2 Champions Leagues, like literally, seen that happen. Where it's the younger fans, like, I feel like it's harder for them because they're seeing City and Liverpool lift trophies that they've never seen us lift, which is the sort of concern. But I'm like you, Steve. I'm slightly optimistic. I just feel like.
But why are you optimistic, both of you, then?
I said slightly optimistic. Some of the things you've said, the young players you've said, I do feel like the academy does have some real quality there. I know we say this quite a lot about our academy, but even by United standards, this has been a very, very good crop of sort of 17 to 18-year-olds. There's some of the players that are coming through look like
they're just a bit on the younger side.
That's the thing.
And I think
it's not the under 21s,
right?
it's the under 18s that are.
Cheeto's looked ready, he's physically he's so much superior at that level that you would expect him to come in and make an impact. And I'm not saying he hasn't, and he's had moments where he's looked all right, but it's not like it's been that's the answer.
He's looked better than Hoyland. Well, let's be honest, the bar's on the floor.
Right, okay.
So do I think Cheeto's good enough to start for Manchester United? No. Do I think he's better than Hoyland? No. Yes,
that's the catch.
So that's a different conversation, isn't it?
That's the problem.
But it's like Ibrahimov. I think he's got some magic in his boots. I think Shea Lacey's got some magic in his boots. I think Fletcher's got some.
Yeah.
Like there's real talent in there, but they're children. The step from playing under 18s for Manchester United to playing first team football for Manchester United probably requires 40 games in the Championship to bridge. Like I don't think you can just say, "Oh, he's had a great season. Crack on, let's see him."
Or even, you look at the players that have come through the academy, even just through the last few years, like Garnacho or Mainoo, right? They didn't really have that loan in the Championship. They didn't play 40 games because it wasn't really felt that they needed it because they were ready to step up, and they did it pretty quickly, right? I mean, they didn't look totally out of place. I think that leap is really underestimated sometimes when we talk about these young players. And so, while I take the point that it's a nice little positive, the idea that they're going to be, supporting a successful United team next season is still a little bit premature, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be careful with some of these younger players, and I have been impressed with some of the ones that have come into the first team. Your mate Ari Amas, I think, has done very well.
Yeah, to be fair.
And I think he's not had it all easy. Let's not sugarcoat it, but you can see he's progressed, and he's someone, just from the conversations you have in pre-season, he's someone who can be self-critical and and honest about it. And
I think it's the only way you learn.
Yeah,
I think if you come off every game and went smash that, then you're not going to learn. I think you almost have to be unimpressed with yourself permanently.
Because he was like, the first time you spoke to him, I think he was a bit like, he was like, not my best.
He's just locked down Mo Salah and came off and went, made a couple of mistakes. It's a good mentality.
No, it is, and we're lacking a bit of that. And I think Tyler Fredrickson's done well. Again, he's not had it all his own way. I think was it the Brentford game where there was a couple of times when he struggled, but on the whole, I think it's been an impressive sort of first start or first initial campaign.
So we're going with the academy then as a
I think so. I'm not saying
that
that's
fair.
Still improving. Do you know what the real reason is?
Yeah.
The real reason to be optimistic is mental health. Because if you come into this and just like, this is terrible, we're going to get relegated, there's no hope. Where'd you go from now?
No, you can't. You have to have an element of that.
Yeah,
I think,
even if it's delusion.
Yeah, I think if I didn't have that, I don't think I'd do this.
Sure.
This isn't just like we do this just because we've got to pay the bills or whatever. You do it because you enjoy it and you want to talk about United and it's your club that you love. But if it got to the point where I was just like, I think we're going to get relegated and I think this is going to be horrible and I just can't bring myself to... Yeah, 100%.
Take the Manscaped money and run.
Yeah, or whatever money there's left. There isn't any. But I just go and go back to reporting on crime around Manchester, which was always a bit more...
Stabbings in court.
Yeah, stabbings to cheer myself up rather than having to talk about Manchester United. Obviously, a big problem we've got, and you mentioned this in your article, was there's no Champions League football, which I hate thinking like this, but it's how we have to think, which is a massive burden on the finances. I mean, how are United going to get around that? Are we about to witness a fire sale like no other, or is it going to be a case of not buying as many players as we need?
The problem with doing a fire sale is that you've got to have people who want to buy the fire. Does that work?
Yeah.
Why would anyone want to buy fire? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The trouble with shifting a lot of the players that are on United's books right now is that they're expensive themselves. They're on expensive wages, and so I think we've done this several seasons now, several summers in a row, where we've looked at the squad and we've said, well, I don't really see a future for him. Ideally, you get rid of him too. And what about him? This one.
Mbeumo gets a new 5-year contract.
Bam. Well, maybe in some cases, yes. And then quickly you realise, he's on the list as well. But the actual reality of getting rid of some of these players is quite difficult. And I think Casemiro is a great example. And look, I think he had a very good end to the season, didn't he? Once he came back into the team, Casemiro. You'd still probably look at that contract and think, is it one that we really need on the books right now? You're also looking at it and thinking, is it one that we're going to be able to shift? And I think as the seasons have moved on, people have gradually realised that that's going to be quite difficult, and he's got 1 year left, and he'll probably, not really hearing anything about much interest in him at the moment.
No.
Rashford, you saw the stuff about Barcelona yesterday, potential movement there, I think, but see what happens going forwards. Garnacho, I think there are a lot of clubs would be interested in Garnacho, and that obviously would unlock a lot in terms of not just the cash that you bring in, because he's one of the most highly valued players, but also in FFP, PSR terms. So you're looking at that as well. But then Anthony, maybe, I don't know, like the rest you're kind of scrimping around for 15, 20 million here and there that helps add things up.
Sorry, go on, Steve.
People are talking like, we'll get 40, 50 if you sell Onana, you'll get 30, 40 if you sell him. Be like, no, you won't.
No, you won't.
You won't. I think you're struggling because the wages are such a factor. Like Casemiro alone, there'd be lots of people would love Casemiro in their team, but don't want to pay for him. Even Jadon Sancho, we're not necessarily out of the woods with him.
Sure.
He could end up at pre-season.
I was glad he got that goal last night, because I think it sort of shifted the narrative slightly. And it's like, he's won a trophy, scored in the final. Joe Cole was like, what a great season he's had it. And I was like,
even when Caicedo scored,
let's just say nothing.
Yeah, if you want to push that narrative, I'm all about
Nod
it.
and wave.
Yeah, I'm like, let's go with that then. He's done really well, because not that I hate Jadon Sancho, but it didn't work out for him at United. I don't see him having a future.
I don't think it's worked out for him at Chelsea.
No, I don't. To be honest with you, they just want to ignore the 15 games he went with and he didn't do much. But I was hoping that would shift the narrative. On the flip side, Anthony is probably the other way around when it comes to Jadon Sancho, in the sense that he had a poor final, but has had a good spell. Now, I'm hoping that the fact he had such a productive time there, was it 9 goals and 5 assists, whatever it is, I forget the numbers, will make Pellegrini or whoever want to keep him. I think the question there with Betis is, that helps.
The question there with Betis is whether they can afford it, because I think they've been quite keen to just do another loan. Maybe they end up taking on a bit more wages or whatever in that case, or maybe they pay a bigger loan fee. If there's a wider market out there for him, I think that's a question. The issue is, and this is more the issue with Garnacho really, but also sort of with Rashford and Sancho, is that it's become quite clear that they're not going to find a way back in at United. And so that then, if that message is out there, then that kind of depreciates their price on the market, right? Because clubs know that United aren't going to work them. They need to get rid. And so that you're automatically wiping maybe like 10, 15 million off the top of the most that you could probably get for them. So United are in a difficult situation from that point as well. And then that has, if you need to sell to buy, then that has, effects on who you can bring in as well.
Do you think there's any future for any of them loanees? Do you think they're all done?
I think Rashford will be the only one that's got half a chance, and I think that's at most half a chance. And something clearly happened with him and Amorim early doors, because Amorim just didn't even give him an opportunity, and he was like fully ostracised. To me, it sounded or felt like it had come from above, like that football board, Wilcox, Radcliffe, whoever had gone, that's a wage that we want to move on. Let's start the process now, maybe. Because it seemed to be like he didn't even get a chance with Amorim.
It was so weird, wasn't it? Because there was at one point where he was not on the bench when we couldn't even fill the bench, or then he was on the bench against Newcastle, didn't get brought on, and it was literally like he's on the bench just because we need numbers. And it was weird because Amorim, and I get it, because he's still an asset, you want to move on, was going into press conference and saying, he's still a United player, he's still someone I'll turn to. But he wasn't even having him on the bench. You think, obviously.
And Casemiro started like that as well. Yeah. Casemiro was completely forgotten about until he brought him in.
He was getting on the bench, I think, Casemiro.
The difference with Casemiro is, you saw, because where I sit, or stand at Old Trafford, is where they warm up. Casemiro was always switched on in terms of shouting over to players when he was warming up. He seemed quite, almost happy to be on the bench. He didn't seem like he spat his dummy out. He was giving people advice and chatting to them and, shouting over the pitch. So it looked like he was sort of all right, and Amorim obviously didn't have a massive issue with him. Rashford, them two are just, they're done, aren't they?
It's not felt transparent whatever's happened.
No.
I think someone's holding back some truth to us in terms of what's happened. Was there a blow up at training? Was there a conversation? Some things happened that's not come out yet. And there's people sort of gone, but and not told me. So I think there's something amiss.
Feels more to it.
Laurie was reporting before, around the time of it, that Rashford had been out before the Everton game that he played. I think he scored 2, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think it was 2 days before that game. You'd have to go back and check. So I don't want to put words
There
in
was the
Laurie's mouth.
derby as well, weren't there? Was that under?
There was
Ten Hag?
there was a question about how
No, the derby was when Amorim dropped him in Garnacho, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and there was a question about how he trained leading up to the derby, I think, as well. And it was all in Laurie's piece, the big end of season read.
Joe spoke to him about that yesterday. Don't worry. Yeah, and Joe sat down for that one. I know he's in Kuala Lumpur, but
so there was definitely some, a little bit of tension there.
But that was after the fact. It was like he came in and he wasn't in the team, so it's like. That's why I feel like there was maybe a message passed down from someone when Amorim got the job. It's like, oh, and by the way, you need.
But he started, didn't he? Started the Ipswich game.
No, he started. Yeah, he started, and he played in the Everton game. So
he scored it. You've done the best thing you can do, Steve, which is blank a lot of the season out.
You know what? When I look back at this, it's going to be exactly the same as the Moyes season, where I've got like 2 games in my head, and that's it.
I'm like, I remember the 2-2 at home to Fulham. I think it was.
The Dan Burn.
Yeah,
Olympiacos away.
Oh yeah, I was there for that one. That was a great away. Because he came in.
I thought that was rock bottom, Jay. Do you know how high up that was? Do you know how far away from that ball we are?
Stages of the Champions League. Hey, are you mental?
Worst performance I've ever seen. Shut the club down. Fucking hell.
Imagine being in the Champions League in the knockout stages.
Fuming. And we still got through that fucking round anyway.
Ryan Giggs rolling back the years. Yeah, it was whatever's gone on with Marcus. I agree with Steve. I think it's very unlikely he's going to come back. I mean, you never say never.
I think
but
so. I think
he might be in pre-season.
He's the only one that I could see a chance with. The others, I think, are totally nailed shut.
And I think a lot of that is literally the club can't get the money in for him because he wants to go to Barcelona. But
I think Barcelona's always been a huge dream of his, and I think it was probably his preference in January as well. They had that thing going on at the time with Dani Olmo and whether they can register players, and I never quite really know how they managed to do it. Still, they somehow managed to make all the signings that they want.
Barcelona's worse than the Hacienda, mate. Honestly,
I want the catastrophes that Barcelona have. When they're having a nightmare, they'll finish. They'll win La Liga or go out and buy Lewandowski or do you know what I mean? Or finally, Yamal will come.
Found a child. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he might be the greatest player ever. Like that's them going through their banter era while we're getting beat off. Postmen in Malaysia or whatever. It's like,
hey. Sorry. It's a semi-pro postman.
Sorry, I'm not trying to disparage the All-Stars. They're a very good team, but
no, they're not.
Let's be real about where United are at the minute. It does feel pretty grim. Garnacho, you mentioned earlier. We heard from, we kind of heard from Ahmad about Garnacho today in the press conference.
It's not an issue apparently.
Yeah, and Amorim was giggling almost when he was asked about this. I mean, it's all a bit weird, isn't it? The fact that you've got a player who, like we were talking about earlier, was dropped from the derby, where Marcus that was almost the end of his United career, seemingly. Garnacho pulled his socks up, got himself not just back into the team in the squad, but was a mainstay of the team. Started almost every game.
Yeah, but was that selection or lack of selection?
Both. I mean, you're right.
He was still saying, Amorim, after games, when he was asked about Garnacho, he was saying, he's adapting to how I want him to play. He is doing. He's taking things on board. He's learning, and so he's being rewarded. And so I think he was fairly happy with him for the past few months.
Yeah, and
juncture.
Yeah, it's just when he did what he did after that final. Garnacho,
do you think it was that bad?
Yes.
Right. Why?
Because
Ange nailed it. United's a mafia, and you don't talk about family business in public.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where you go to the manager and you speak to him face to face, and you go, look, I've played X amount of games this season, why am I getting 20 minutes in the final? And I actually think the idea of him getting 20 minutes in the final was a bad one. I actually agree with the sentiment. I think he should have been given longer. I think Mainoo should have been given longer than 10 seconds of normal time. I think Xerxes should have been given longer than 20 minutes. I agree with the idea that it was frustrating and a bit daft, but I think you go to the manager and speak to him. You don't go to the media, and I get he's sweaty, he's a bit petulant or whatever, but you don't go to the media and talk about it there.
No, when you say the season's been shit and realise that you've started up front more than any other forward. No one sat there and went, wait, this is news. This is a shit season. No, we all know it was a shit season, but how about have some fucking responsibility, because you was a major part of why it's been such a shit season.
I don't. Well, you.
What do you think? You seem to be a bit more.
I am. When I went back and read the comments, none of us are naive here. We all know what he's saying when he's talking about the 20 minutes in particular. I think is the most incendiary bit, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe I've only just got 20 minutes, but he almost hesitates and says, "Look, I don't know." I don't know what's as stopping himself saying anything. It's not a really direct attack on Amorim, to me at least.
It's weird.
It's a coded one, and I get it. And I think this is a player who is a young lad, very ambitious, clearly, thinks very highly of himself. We all know that. We can all see that. But don't you want players like that at United who want to get on in a game, who want to make an impact, who think they can make a difference in a huge European final?
I agree.
And who, in the end, don't actually say anything that's that direct a criticism of the manager.
I agree to a certain extent. You do want players that want to be on the pitch. You do want players that want the ball all the time. I like Garnacho. I did a video sticking up for him not long ago because I think everyone sort of turned on him, and I feel for him because I think in an ideal scenario he wouldn't have played 148 games for United or whatever it is at the age of 20. But also, the fact he has played 100 odd games, he knows he's not a child in sense of he doesn't know what he's doing when he's in front of a camera. He doesn't know how that's going to go down. He's played a lot of football for United. Yeah. You know, if you go on camera or whatever, or you speak to the media after we've just lost the final and you're basically questioning the manager, you've got to know how that's going to go down. A manager who's already dropped you from the squad this season because he was unhappy with you, like, surely he knows I'm sort of...
Do you think the punishment fits the crime, though? Do you think, like, that's him done then, and that's fair? Like, that's a reasonable response?
In an ideal world, I would like to have seen it maybe go a slightly different way.
Yeah.
In the sense that what we've now heard is...
Do you think it's been one strike and you're out?
No.
I don't think it is, and I think there's been multiple strikes.
Honestly, I don't...
Lissandro Martinez things where he was seen criticising him, there's been these social media posts where he's liked that have been criticising the manager, and
that's fair.
He just strikes me as that he's problematic, I think. And he's, I know it's not him and it's his brother, but your brother works for you. Like, if your brother's constantly chirping up, I think it's your responsibility to put something out there, because you're not shy in putting things out there, as we know, and either say, he can say what he wants, he doesn't speak for me, or tell him to shut up.
And also,
you can have it both ways.
And also, I feel like to really even get away with something like that, you have to have been doing a bit more than he's been doing too. He's not helped his cause by the fact it hasn't been a great season by Garnacho.
And if he'd have said that,
21 goals and assists.
I know I
sound like I'm doing Garnacho.
No, which is fair.
Still.
But like, let's be honest, 21 goals and assists.
20 years old.
Is not terrible, but he's not been great. He's not.
I know he's not been great. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's been perfect at all.
He's had some good games. He's had
the
some
reason
games
he's got all of those is because he's taking 8, 9, 10 shots a game. When
I think they need someone to do that because the attack looks so.
If you're the manager, then let's put it this way: if you're the manager and you've just lost the final, you've not got Champions League football. Don't forget, at the time as well, there's still a chance that United could have finished 17th. We're going into the final round of games. Which
shit season, like you said.
If Villa beat us and Spurs win or whatever, we end up 17th, right? So you've got that on the horizon. You're already under a load of pressure, and you turn on the telly or whatever, or the media guy comes over to you, someone says, "Oh, we've seen what Garnacho's just said." How would you react? Would you not be like, this fucking guy?
I'm not 100% sure on the chronology of what happened. So, was Amorim in the press conference spoke before Garnacho did the interview with the Spanish journalist in the mix zone, I think. Is that right?
I'm talking about the big story was after this, was when he said, you better pray.
Yes.
Get another club,
yes.
Which I think came after the...
Yeah.
So, sorry.
I'm mixed up. I was thinking of what he said.
Which, by the way, that getting leaked alone.
Yeah. I mean, that's a shit show. Either way you look at it. So I just think, as a manager, would you not be a bit like, I can't have this 20-year-old undermining my authority when I'm already under a load of pressure? We've just lost the final, and the first thing he's doing is going out there and saying, basically, this manager doesn't know what he's doing.
Especially if he's been chastised in the season already.
Yeah,
sure.
And you've already... And let's not forget as well...
I think it's an understandable reaction. I think you're 100% right, and I'm not really defending it on that
I'm glad you are, because I don't want it to be all one way.
Yeah, but I do think that you're in danger of kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. And what player of Garnacho's potential and like ability right now who's going to get you that 21 goals and assists or whatever are you going to replace him with right now, who's going to be able to potentially be as good or even better in 5-6 years time because he is that young?
I don't think he's that good for starters.
You're not
I really don't think he's that
I saw
good
you on Reel's channel
of a footballer
in
the grand scheme of things. I think when you look around the squad, there's some players that have got excellent decision making that maybe haven't got the stats. I look at Kobbie Mainoo and his decision making is light years ahead of Garnacho's. 100%. I look at Ahmad's, it's light years ahead of Garnacho. I look at the likes of Mazraoui, and even Fredrickson and other younger players when they're coming through, and I'm seeing just instantly superior levels of decision making, knowing when to let it go, knowing when to keep it. Amas, I think, was even maybe playing a little bit on the safe side, but I thought his decision making just looks better. I think he comes across as incredibly selfish, and I think that comes across in that interview that he did, whereas it was kind of like, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this. But if he'd have come out and said, it's been a shit season and I'm partly to blame, I can do better, these things I'm working on, look, we're all behind the manager, but we have to be better next season, that would have come across entirely different to the way that what he did and what he said. And especially when his brother's out here going, the manager's a fucking clown. That gets added into the
The brother stuff is the problem, and I don't really know what United are supposed to do about it. And I guess
think
it's on
Garnacho
Garnacho to
needs get hold of your brother and tell him to wind it in.
If he's your agent, he's taking 10% of your wage, so technically the club are paying him.
I mean, it was just unnecessary. It was, to me, go and have that conversation in private with the manager. If you want to knock on his door and say, I'm fucking fuming that you've given me 20 minutes.
And agents do.
Yeah.
Especially in finals. Like the agents absolutely
have those conversations behind closed doors. It was just... It didn't need to happen. And also, Garnacho was already someone, there was rumours that he could be going anyway, wasn't there?
Sure, yeah.
Because there was talk that the club actually were entertaining the idea of getting him moved him on because he's an academy. I know we got him from Atletico.
And his house been up for sale about 8 weeks.
Yeah, his house has been up like it. He fetches decent money.
Yeah.
I think he, potentially could get you 50 odd million quid, which we can then reinvest, obviously. So it's probably just the timing of it couldn't be worse.
Do you know what? I think he's just aggro. Like, look at the whole shitstorm he's caused with like Aguero and Messi over being like a big Ronaldo fanboy and stuff like that. And you just think, I thought that was a laugh at the time, but when you think back, you go, maybe he's just a bell.
Mate, I do feel, listen, I don't know him, but when I met him and we did a thing at Carrington when we took his son down there as part of these press conference with kids, he was a nice guy with the kids. He was switched on. I know it's PR, but he at least acted like he gave a shit.
I've only ever heard good
I
things.
can only say, like, from what I saw, he came across as a nice young lad to me. I see these things, I'm frustrated. I want Garnacho to work out because I actually think, I slightly disagree with Steve, I think there's a player there, and I like the fact he wants the ball and runs with the ball. I think there's not enough for that. I think too many of these players now get the ball and want to give it backwards and just can't be asked, where at least he's getting it up the pitch. The problem is, I think he's gone too far. I think he's done.
I think I've only ever heard good things is the one thing I say about that, about him personally, around Carrington, around the club. And also, I come back to this, like, you want players who want to be the best themselves. I know it's selfishness, I know it's arrogance, the Cristiano Ronaldo stuff, we can all laugh at it, and it is ridiculous. But the one thing you'd say about Cristiano Ronaldo, and I don't think he's a perfect role model, but he was somebody who was completely dedicated to his craft and making himself the best as possible. And Garnacho, I've never had any indication that he isn't in the same way, that he goes about his own life and as a professional. Even though he's still very young, he wants to be the best player that he can be. And I think you want players like that at United, but I can understand the criticism. I just think maybe the punishment doesn't fit the crime if this is it for him.
Garnacho would be ideal for me if he was in a different era at United, where we had other options and he wasn't playing 140, and he had a manager that would, from the day he got there, was on him, and the same manager as well, because he's had 3 managers now. If it was just like,
look at,
no fucking about, and also you're getting rotated, like you're not playing every week, you're playing sporadically, so your ego probably isn't as high as it is as someone who's playing week in, week out. I think that could have worked for him, but obviously he's not. He's in the worst period of Manchester United's history in about 50 years, which
you see the Ravel Morrison clip with Under the Cosh?
No.
He's talking about Gary Neville smashed his phone up.
Yeah.
Because Rio put Ravel's phone on charge in the first team changing room, so Neville's picked it up, gone, this doesn't belong in here, smash, launched it down the corridor.
Yeah.
You can say it might be bullying, and you might be right, but at the same time, there's standards being set in terms of behaviour, and you go, who is doing, I don't say who's smashing people's phones up now, but who's correcting behaviour that's perceived as incorrect? Like, who's doing that? Is that happening? And you think that's how you've got to fix a culture. I mean, Amorim's cutting about the gas, smashing tellies up. Like, I think it's happened more than once this season.
Well, he pops up post-match with his hand in a plaster, not a plaster
that
cast.
Was the Bilbao game. They were saying that was pre-match as well.
Oh, was it?
So
right, sorry.
maybe he just did it in anticipation of blowing a 3-0 lead.
He certainly looks like he's got an edge to him, doesn't he? And he's getting tested. And also, like we've mentioned it earlier, like even that point where him and Rashford were both dropped from the squad for the derby. Rashford's a senior pro. Rashford's probably someone that Garnacho should be looking up to and getting a good example from. And he's dropped from the squad with him because they've both been doing things he shouldn't have been doing in train or whatever it was. There's a lack of good examples there, isn't there? There is maybe a lack of. I mean, you've got some leaders, Casemiro,
Bruno.
Maguire, maybe, but
Martinez, maybe when he's been around.
Yeah, but there's not like any great team, not just United over has 5, 6, 7 lead. When I was a kid, it wasn't just the guy who had the armband. It wasn't just Robbo. It was Bruce. It was Pallister. It was Schmeichel. It was Chocky. It was Keane. It was there was loads of leaders. Eric. You know what I mean? Like going
especially the dressing rooms.
Yeah,
that's not the manager. That's the players.
And like who's doing that? We heard this, didn't we? Like not that long ago. Like how the players had this thing where they brought up fines if you were late for training. It was like Sancho and Pogba had all the fines, but no one really did anything about it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was even a few years ago, and it's probably gotten worse since then.
The one thing I'd say is that when I've chatted to people, what's come back is that this group, in the past, there've often been accusations about, it's toxic. I remember particularly under Mourinho, it got towards the end, it was rough. With this group, you don't get so much of that, if I'm totally honest. I think that personalities within it there's generally quite. Even watching them these past 2 years, they've been shit seasons, right? But you've never really got the sense that they're not trying, at least, or they're not.
No, they're just shit.
They're just shit. They're just shit. Maybe, yeah. But there's not been that sense that they're throwing it in or throwing a manager under the bus. They just haven't been good enough. And I think that's
I think a lot of the component parts are. I think when you look at the number of goals we scored versus what Newcastle scored, it's like a 20-goal difference or something like that. And you think if you just had 20 goals to us, you would see United into the top half. And you get in an Mbeumo, you get in a Acuna, and that replaces what we've had up front. Are we moneyballing this? Are we just going, let's bring in 20, 30, 40 goals extra and see what happens? Because I think our first choice defence, if you can get a fit first choice defence. Oh, by the way, do you see Matthijs de Ligt was in like one of the worst signings of the season list by goal? Yeah, they're blacklisted because that's nonsense. He's been brilliant.
Yeah,
I think de Ligt, Yoro, Martinez as your first choice back three. Very happy with that going forward.
No,
and then
that's
you've
class.
Got decent backups below.
Heaven, I like Heaven.
Maguire. Yeah, whether that's Maguire, Heaven, Fredrickson, whoever. I think Mazraoui. I think you've got brilliant options there as backup. I think you've got depth in that one particular position.
No, you have.
This is the positive.
There is, and not to bring the mood down. I think your colleague David Ornstein has posted that it looks like Delap. I know. Yeah, sorry, just had a message off.
Okay.
Breaking news.
Breaking news that Delap's preference is Chelsea.
Wow. We've just been pied by a relegated player.
I know. Every time do you know that thing you said about rock bottom? You were right. There's levels to go to.
Find another level.
Yeah. We can't get the kid from Ipswich. He doesn't want to come here. I mean, Ornstein knows his stuff, doesn't he?
How are Chelsea still buying players?
Why do they still buy players? Why do they need players?
Are they building a double-decker changing room or something?
It doesn't seem like they ever stop, do they? They'll probably sign a 10-year deal when he gets there as well. Do United have plan Bs? Me and you were talking off camera earlier, and one of the things I said I was worried about was not just the fact we're going for Delap, which is fine, but it felt like, as someone who covers a lot of United news in terms of what's been reported, there isn't too many links with other strikers. It felt like we're almost Delap or bust, which worries me massively.
No, I think, like I was saying before, so going into this summer, we're talking about a 100 million budget, and you're looking at Cunha, 62.5, release clause, Delap, 30 mil. That takes you right up to that limit. And United were kind of targeting those players because those were deals that they knew where the entry level would be and that they would be able to do. There hasn't been a lot of noise around alternatives, to be honest. I know people talk about Gyökeres, people talk about Osimhen. It's a different calibre of striker, and therefore it's a different level of fee and financial commitment that you have to make. And there isn't, I don't want to say there isn't the capacity, because I think there's levers United can pull, there's players that they can move out the door. Look, this time last week, I think we would all assume more likely than not Garnacho will be at the club next season, right? And now it looks like there's pretty much zero chance of that. So there's probably some money coming in there if they can do that deal. So things can happen and things can change. But what I would say about the likes of Gyökeres and Osimhen as well is that they're strikers of a level of a kind of profile that United haven't really been targeting anyway. I mean, they're totally different from Delap. They've been looking to move towards younger players and Premier League players who have that level of experience and quality. And I'm not saying Delap's better than those two, but who have done it here in this country. Delap has really been the only option that I'm aware of, and that certainly has been linked out there at the moment.
Mateta's had another bit of a link, hasn't he? But he would be more than 30 million.
Yeah, and again he's older, and so a slightly different profile. So I think it's look, we're all reacting to the breaking news, but I think that is a bit of a body blow, to be honest, because he was a player that, young, 12 goals this season in the league. Like I say, he's shown he can do it, and there was a lot of competition for him. I don't think we should underestimate that. 30 million for a player who's done that. You can see why basically every single Premier League club, apart from a handful,
you've got to take him at his word here, haven't you? Because he clearly wanted Champions League football. Chelsea get the thing done last night.
Well,
that's where they had it last week, didn't they? Yeah, you're right. Well, they've got it, and they've won a trophy. Yeah. And you just don't know as well, because isn't there someone at Chelsea? I know we've got Wilcox has got a relationship, but Maresca's got a relationship with him as well.
Joe Shields, who does their recruitment, was at City before. He was on top of all the academy stuff. So I mean, there's
you can imagine people are in his ear, like whether Wilcox is, but they've got their own people that know him who are like, look, you come here, you're going to be challenging for trophies, which has been proven last night, like you mentioned, and the fact they've got Champions League, they're at the right end of the table. United, we could be 3 or 4 years away from where Chelsea are at now, which pains me to say, but we could. So, and also there's other things you never know with players. I'm not saying this is the case, but he might fancy living in London. He might fancy, do you know what I mean? Diary. You just don't know, do you? He might want to work with Maresca. You don't know what's going on there. Just on the Mbeumo rumours as well, because that feels like there's a lot more to it than there was a couple of weeks ago. That seems to have gathered a little bit of momentum. You've obviously mentioned there about the maths. The sums of like United have 60 million for Mercedes Cunha, what would have been 30 million for Delap that potentially looks like it isn't going to be spent. Could United, do you think, bring in Mbeumo? Could they do that without even selling anyone, or with maybe just moving on one player? If we've got 100 million and you've got 62 for Cunha that's spread out over 2 years, could you still go for Mbeumo?
I think it's something that has picked up over the last couple of weeks, like you say. Like people talking around 50 mil. Has been the number. I think he's got a year left on his contract and then an option as well. So it's still going to be a decent fee that Brentford are going to command. I think it's possible, but again, look at the way the Cunha deal is structured and the way they were trying to do it over 5 years rather than
and Wolves have said
with
no,
3 installments.
You'll do what the stipulation is, and United went right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So the cash is a real issue, and we've been writing about it for most of this season. How much money United have on hand to be able to pay. So yes, you could feasibly probably do a deal for Mbeumo with Brentford, but how much do Brentford want up front now? How much are they willing to put on in the future? Should United as a club really be actually spending this money on tick, given the fact that they've got 300 million in unpaid transfer fees already that they're going to
If you're going to walk on ice, you might as well dance.
I love that. Yeah, we're doing a lot of that, dancing on ice at the minute. Jesus Christ. I mean, look, I like Mbeumo. I think he's a good player. I've always liked him whenever we played against him.
He's not really a striker though, is he?
No, he's not. It still doesn't solve the issue.
I think he works as one of the 10s.
Yeah, who's going to lead the line for United?
Did you see? There was a little report came out literally just as I was walking down the street on my way in here. Matt Hargreaves is in Naples supposedly, talking to Napoli about the possibility of Osimhen plus for Højlund plus cash.
Right. Okay. So you're just throwing the breaking news at me on here,
swatting it away.
I nearly went back to my car and started the engine on the off chance this is real. I will collect his shit for him. Just tell him to meet us there.
That feels. I don't want to hate on Højlund because everyone does, but it feels a little bit. Almost too good to be true that we get a striker.
Do you know what it is? I hope they've just found Maradona's old stash. And they've just absolutely caned Maradona's old stash, and they're like, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, man. Get Højlund back.
They've just got McTominay from us, well, not just, but and he's like the best player ever. Like they're probably thinking.
I think it's Maradona.
McTominay.
You've
been watching Phil Jones too much here, which was the most bizarre.
Yeah, by the way, if that's not a cry for help, I don't know what is.
Did you see what Phil Jones did? I think he was on some bookies site or something.
Oh, is it one of these blind rating things?
And it was okay at first. We got to, he was keeping McTominay in over Mata and one or two others, but then he got to Giggs, and I was like, come on, man.
So wait,
yeah,
you went McTominay over Giggs?
Yeah.
Yes, with a straight face.
I don't hate it. I don't agree with it, but I don't.
No. You're showing
can't justify that. Have you been in Naples this weekend?
Yeah. Have you been having a Maradona party? I like McTominay, but let's be honest. Ryan Giggs won 13 Premier League titles for a reason.
Jay,
Sure,
don't finish that sentence.
Right, sorry.
There's absolutely zero requirement.
Yeah.
You can't justify why Ryan Giggs is better than Scott McTominay. Just don't do it.
We have
Just
these
say,
conversations.
he is because he is, and shut the
like
fuck
Mark
up.
go, I can kind of get it. No, Mark, I can't get it.
No,
it's insane. And especially as someone who's played with both of them.
But do you know
I don't know what
the
he's going
madness
through
is
his tiny mind.
Ryan Giggs isn't in most people's Premier League all-time 11s.
No, he won't. He's not.
And that's utterly fucking nuts to me.
It's like he's just completely ignored from every discussion about anything.
Don't know.
Yeah?
Don't know what.
Don't know if he's in it.
What, the all-time Premier League?
We're not actually doing this, though.
No, but I mean, there's fair enough him not being in the all-time Premier League 11, right?
That's what he's got a problem with,
That
though.
can be a discussion.
No, it can't.
It can't be a discussion, though. If you put an all-time Premier League 11, right, you might argue one way or the other, right? Whatever. There is no discussion over whether Scott McTominay is better.
No, there isn't. There isn't.
Ryan Giggs.
Let's.
Like that's just.
I'm sorry that I even.
I mean, even whether or not
You can't. Even you get that show thing. I respect it. I like someone who sticks up United players.
Can I go again?
But if you're going to sit here with a straight face, yeah, as a representative of the Athletic, and say that Ryan Giggs isn't or wasn't as good as Scott McTominay, I'm sorry, Matt. You've lost the room on that one.
The discussion around Ryan Giggs even being in the Premier League all-time 11, you can say it's a discussion,
yeah,
but it's a short discussion.
Right, okay, that's
because
fine,
he should be the first pick.
Yeah, I get it.
It should be called the Ryan Giggs Hall of fucking Fame for fucking starters.
Let's not do the Hall of Fame thing. We do this all the time. It's so dumb. I can't get my head around it. Just finally, before I let you go,
okay,
Amorim.
Yeah,
I'm worried about him.
Why? He's all right.
He's mashing up tellies.
He's I'm worried about him when he starts laughing now. I saw him in his press conference laughing, and I'm worried about this guy.
He laughs a lot.
Yeah, and I've done them once. Everything's all right.
Did you see the open top bus?
Steve, don't mention the open top bus. Right, let's not talk about the open top bus. Why are we having open top buses in Malaysia when we just finished 15th? We're just giving trolls.
I believe it was a commercial thing.
Of course it was.
However,
it wasn't
did someone at the club go
thing, was it?
What?
The Premier League didn't set it up.
No, we're not doing an open top bus. I don't give a fuck what you paid.
Yeah,
do 5 Ubers and shut the fuck up.
It was a disaster. Just quickly,
you laughing at?
Do you think Amorim will get through this and get us through this?
What, do I think he's going to be a success?
Yes.
Ultimately.
It's a long question.
I don't know, mate. I think you'd have to have a few concerns about the system, the style of play, and if you're going to be bidding off, guaranteed world superstars like Alejandro Garnacho, then that's a huge problem as well. No, I'm not serious. I'm still fucking around. No,
it's all right. I respect the fact.
But I think he's going to be under a huge amount of pressure from the minute go next season, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the irony of everything that's happened over the last 6 months is that we're in exactly the same place that we were last season, really, if not a worse one, because there isn't a trophy to actually celebrate at the same time, and it's.
But you've got Ineos that have had a bit more time to bed in and hopefully get to work on.
I get
targets.
that, but then they've said we're not going to make the same mistakes that we did last time, but they're gonna stick with the manager. I'm not suggesting they get rid of him. I'm just saying that they're in the same predicament that they were, and so this is going to be a real test of whether they have actually learned from those.
One
mistakes.
word answer for both of you: does Ten Hag win the final last week?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he does. The only caveat I would add to that is I don't know if he gets there.
He didn't do bad getting a final.
No, I'm not. I don't know though, because it was such a weird way we got to that final.
It's true.
That I can't guarantee that Ten Hag. I mean, we might have beat Lyon 5-0 on aggregate under Ten Hag. I don't know. Yeah. It's just I don't know if we'd have got there.
It's with Amorim's team.
That's the only
it's
caveat.
Like I don't think an Amorim team is going to go at Anfield and get beat 7-0. But they also can't win a game at the minute. So
but we've done all right there under Amorim.
Yeah,
true. But that's what I mean. So they're not going to get it's not like Ten Hag where you can get slapped any game. But
there was just massive highs and massive lows.
Exactly.
Like beating City in that final was amazing. Losing 7-0 Anfield is probably in a lifetime of low points the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 5-0 under Solskjaer at home?
5-0 at home was bad.
That was bad.
Shouting at the ref when he only gave us 2 minutes of added time in that first half for them to get the fourth.
That first half was
actually, you're right, that was the lowest point of my time as a United fan. Matt, listen, Matt, it's always good chatting to you. Thanks for coming on the channel. Thanks for defending United players against me and Steve. It was just horrible Reds.
No, they don't.
No, they
don't deserve defending this year.
Hold on. If you keep that up, they'll have you back on the overlap. But we'll get you back on this channel. Forget them. them lot. Let Macca do that. We'll get you back on the channel soon. Always a pleasure. Go and check out Mark's work in The Athletic. There's a link in the description. You know where to find him on all his channels as well. That's been Stephen Howson. That's been Mark Critchley. I've been Jay Moy. This has been Off the Bar. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.